In the ever-shifting landscape of American politics, questions are swirling about whether President Donald Trump's once ironclad hold on the Republican Party is beginning to weaken. A recent development in Indiana has fueled this speculation. There, Republicans in the state Senate defied party expectations by crossing lines to reject a redistricting plan that the White House had aggressively championed. This move represents a rare instance of GOP lawmakers pushing back against the administration's agenda, highlighting potential fractures within the party ranks. President Trump's response to this rejection was characteristically defiant and laced with his signature bravado. In a public statement, he remarked, "It's funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide and I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that. It's a great place. I love the people there. They love me. We won in a landslide all 3 times." However, this narrative doesn't fully align with reports from the ground. By all accounts, the president and his team had invested significant effort into lobbying for the redistricting changes, including direct calls to lawmakers and threats of primary challenges against those who opposed it. This episode is being viewed by political analysts as a substantial setback for the White House's broader redistricting strategy, which aimed to redraw electoral maps in key states to favor Republican candidates in future elections. CNN correspondent Elena, reporting from the White House, described it as one of the biggest defeats we've seen for the president and his political team yet. She emphasized how Indiana Republicans resoundingly rejected the proposal, underscoring the administration's failure to rally its base effectively in a state Trump claims as a stronghold. But this Indiana incident is just the tip of the iceberg in a larger narrative of mounting pressures on President Trump. As calls for his removal intensify through impeachment articles, invocations of the 25th Amendment, and widespread resignation demands, the legitimacy of his presidency is under constant scrutiny. Formal resolutions in Congress accuse him of tyranny and unconstitutional war-making, while a sitting governor has publicly declared him mentally unfit. These developments paint a picture of a president facing a multifaceted crisis that questions his ability to lead. Before delving deeper, it's worth pausing to address the reliability of information in today's media environment. Mainstream outlets have faced criticism for bias and sensationalism, which is why platforms like Pump Politics exist, to deliver unfiltered stories, genuine context, and perspectives free from corporate influence. If you're seeking to stay informed without the spin, consider subscribing to our free newsletter. We'll deliver the latest directly to your inbox. Click the link in the description to join, or support our community dedicated to uncovering the truth. Shifting back to the core issue, the pressure on Trump to end his term prematurely is escalating dramatically. This isn't mere political theater. It's a concerted effort involving congressional demands, public campaigns, and even members of his own party indirectly amplifying the calls. The focus is on Section 4 of the 25th Amendment, which provides a mechanism for removing a president deemed incapable of fulfilling duties. Under this section, the vice president and a majority of the cabinet can submit a declaration to congressional leaders, effectively transferring power. This push reframes the debate from personal loyalty to national interest, placing immense political responsibility on cabinet members and Vice President Vance. Beyond the Capitol, grassroots campaigns like Impeach Trump Again and Impeach Donald Trump Now have garnered hundreds of thousands of signatures, arguing that Trump's actions disqualify him from office and violate the Constitution during his second term. This creates a rolling political crisis with enormous pressure on Congress to force an early end to Trump's presidency, despite lacking the votes currently. For instance, House Resolution 353, filed on April 28, 2025, outlines 7 articles of impeachment: obstruction of justice, usurping Congress's power of the purse, abuse of trade and war powers, First Amendment violations, creation of an unlawful office, bribery and corruption, and tyranny. It explicitly states these high crimes warrant impeachment, trial, and removal from office. The tyranny charge is particularly severe, evoking the founders' rebellion against oppressive rule. Similarly, House Resolution 537, filed on June 23, 2025, accuses Trump of high crimes for unauthorized airstrikes on Iran, claiming he usurped Congress's war powers and set a dangerous precedent for future presidents. If not, campaigns like Impeach Trump Again report nearly 1 million signatures, citing recent offenses such as federal control over D.C. police, National Guard deployments in Los Angeles, and alleged calls for executing Democratic lawmakers. Representative Henry Kiar's packet compiles editorials demanding immediate removal, urging the cabinet to invoke the 25th Amendment if Congress falters. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has been vocal, calling for Trump's removal under the 25th Amendment after Trump suggested using U.S. cities like Chicago as military training grounds. Pritzker cited signs of dementia and parallels to Vladimir Putin's tactics, heightening the mental fitness debate. To fully grasp this, we must examine the three primary paths to ending Trump's term: impeachment, the 25th Amendment, and resignation pressure. Each offers a distinct mechanism with varying requirements and feasibility. Impeachment starts in the House with a simple majority vote on articles, then moves to the Senate for trial, needing a two-thirds conviction for removal, a high threshold of 67 senators. The 25th Amendment involves the vice president and cabinet declaring the president unfit, leading to an immediate power transfer, though the president can contest it, requiring congressional two-thirds support to uphold. Resignation pressure is more political, relying on public and media campaigns to force a voluntary exit. These paths converge in a legitimacy crisis, where Trump governs amid accusations of grave constitutional violations. The political calculus, electoral risks for Democrats and Republicans alike, has stalled action, but the pressure persists. As we explore further, it's clear this isn't isolated. It's a comprehensive challenge to Trump's authority. The Indiana redistricting failure exemplifies GOP dissent, potentially signaling broader erosion. Trump's claims of effortless victories contrast with his active involvement, revealing vulnerability. Analysts argue this defeat underscores the White House's overreach, as state Republicans prioritize local interests over national directives. This could embolden other states to resist, weakening Trump's influence ahead of midterms. In context, these events tie into the removal demands, amplifying questions about his leadership. The combination of internal party pushback and external pressures creates a volatile environment where Trump's grip may indeed be slipping. Diving deeper into the mechanisms pressuring President Trump, the impeachment path stands out as the most traditional and publicly scrutinized route to potentially ending his term. This process, enshrined in the Constitution, begins in the House of Representatives, where a simple majority, 218 votes, is required to pass articles of impeachment. If successful, the case advances to the Senate for a trial, culminating in a two-thirds vote, 67 senators, for conviction and removal from office. This high bar has historically made impeachment a rare and politically charged endeavor. House Resolution 353, introduced on April 28, 2025, exemplifies the comprehensive nature of these efforts. It presents 7 detailed articles, each accusing Trump of distinct high crimes and misdemeanors. The first, obstruction of justice, alleges interference in investigations, echoing past controversies. The second charges him with usurping Congress's power of the purse by spending funds without authorization, violating separation of powers. The third article focuses on abuse of trade and war powers, claiming unconstitutional tariffs and military actions. First Amendment violations form the fourth, citing attacks on free speech and the press. The fifth accuses creation of an unlawful office, pointing to improper bureaucratic setups. Bribery and corruption comprise the sixth, alleging self-dealing. Finally, the seventh article levels the grave charge of tyranny, describing arbitrary and oppressive power exercises that undermine constitutional government. This tyranny accusation is the most sweeping, directly invoking the founders' fight against monarchical oppression. The resolution explicitly states these offenses warrant impeachment and trial and removal from office, making the demand for an early end to Trump's term unequivocal. By framing his actions as destructive to the Republic, it positions impeachment not as partisan revenge, but as a necessary safeguard. Complementing this is House Resolution 537, filed on June 23, 2025, which narrows in on a specific incident: unauthorized airstrikes on Iran. It accuses Trump of high crimes for bypassing congressional authorization, thereby usurping the exclusive power to declare war. This language underscores a core constitutional violation, warning that allowing such actions sets a dangerous precedent for future presidents, if not addressed through removal. The forward-looking concern emphasizes institutional damage beyond Trump's tenure, suggesting that failing to act could erode checks and balances permanently. This resolution's focus on war powers ties into broader debates about executive overreach, particularly in foreign policy, where Trump has often acted unilaterally. These resolutions aren't operating in a vacuum. They fuel a broader legitimacy crisis. Trump continues to serve while official documents accuse him of tyranny and illegal war-making, creating a paradoxical situation where his authority is perpetually undermined. The Impeach Trump Again initiative claims nearly 1 million signatures, citing fresh offenses like federal oversight of D.C. police, National Guard presence in Los Angeles, and extreme rhetoric, including alleged suggestions to execute Democratic lawmakers. These claims portray ongoing misconduct, justifying urgent action. Such campaigns bridge institutional efforts with grassroots activism, turning abstract resolutions into tangible public demands. The scale, nearly 1 million voices, demonstrates widespread discontent, adding moral weight to congressional proceedings. Representative Henry Kiar's compiled packet further bolsters this, quoting multiple newspaper editorials urging immediate removal. It argues that if Congress hesitates on impeachment, the cabinet must step in via the 25th Amendment, presenting alternatives to ensure accountability. Media involvement, through these editorials, represents another layer of pressure. Demands for immediate action emphasize urgency, framing delay as complicity in constitutional erosion. This multifaceted approach, resolutions, campaigns, media, creates a siege-like atmosphere around the presidency. In analyzing why impeachment hasn't progressed, the raw political calculus is key. Republicans, holding power, see little incentive to alienate Trump's supporters, who remain a dominant force in primaries. Democrats, in minority, use resolutions to build a record for future elections, hoping to mobilize voters. This standoff results in a rolling crisis. Pressure builds without resolution, eroding trust in institutions. The historical significance is profound. Multiple impeachments in one presidency would be unprecedented, potentially reshaping norms for executive accountability. As we consider the interplay with other paths, impeachment's visibility makes it a focal point. But its failure could pivot attention to the 25th Amendment or resignation. The tyranny article, in particular, elevates the stakes, accusing Trump of the very conduct the Constitution was designed to prevent. Ultimately, these resolutions document a presidency under siege where formal accusations of grave offenses coexist with daily governance. Whether they lead to votes depends on shifting alliances and electoral outcomes, but their impact on legitimacy is immediate and enduring. Transitioning to the second major path for potentially ending President Trump's term, the 25th Amendment offers a distinct executive-focused mechanism. Ratified in 1967 to address presidential incapacity, it provides a framework for handling situations where the president is unable physically or mentally to perform duties. Section 4 is particularly relevant here, allowing the vice president and a majority of cabinet members to declare the president unfit via a written statement to congressional leaders. This declaration triggers an immediate transfer of power to the vice president as acting president, who assumes full authority. The president can contest this, sending the matter to Congress, where a 2/3 vote in both houses is needed to sustain the removal. Unlike impeachment, this path bypasses the House's initiation, relying instead on internal executive branch action. Critics argue this applies to Trump due to perceived mental unfitness, amplified by public statements and behaviors. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has been a prominent voice, calling for invocation on October 1 and 2, 2025, after Trump suggested using U.S. cities like Chicago as training grounds for the military. Pritzker described this as evidence of dementia, like symptoms and emulation of Vladimir Putin's authoritarian tactics. The training grounds remark implies military occupation of American cities, evoking fears of domestic authoritarianism. Pritzker's dementia allegation points to observable cognitive decline, while the Putin comparison highlights parallels in suppressing dissent. These claims from a sitting governor carry significant weight, elevating the debate from partisan sniping to serious fitness concerns. Despite this, the 25th Amendment route is widely seen as politically unrealistic. Trump's cabinet consists of loyal appointees, unlikely to turn against him given their dependence on his favor. Vice President Vance, whose political future is tied to Trump, would need to lead the effort, a prospect deemed improbable due to loyalty and self-interest. This loyalty dynamic underscores the amendment's limitations. Designed for clear incapacity, it falters against a cohesive administration. Yet, calls like Pritzker's keep the issue alive, forcing public discussion and maintaining pressure even without action. Representative Kiar's removal packet reinforces this, stating that if Congress avoids impeachment, the cabinet must invoke the 25th. This imperative language frames it as a duty, not an option, backed by editorials demanding immediate steps. Media consensus in these pieces adds external validation, portraying inaction as a national risk. The amendment's invocation would represent a dramatic shift, reframing removal as apolitical necessity. By emphasizing national interest over loyalty, advocates aim to sway cabinet members, though success remains elusive. This path intersects with broader legitimacy questions. Trump governs amid these calls with formal mechanisms questioning his capacity. The mental unfitness narrative, fueled by Pritzker's statements, personalizes the crisis, shifting from policy disputes to personal capability. Politically, the 25th's unlikelihood doesn't diminish its rhetorical power. It serves as a backup to impeachment, signaling that multiple avenues exist for accountability. Campaigns reference it alongside resolutions, creating a comprehensive toolkit for pressure. The Putin comparison in particular resonates amid global tensions, drawing parallels to authoritarian consolidation. Trump's alleged rhetoric, military use against cities, aligns with such critiques' intensifying demands. As part of the three paths, the 25th complements impeachment's legislative focus with executive introspection. Its failure could heighten resignation pressure, where public outrage forces voluntary exit. In context, this mechanism highlights constitutional safeguards against unfit leaders, yet exposes their vulnerability to partisanship. The ongoing calls ensure the fitness debate persists, contributing to the rolling crisis. Word count, 598. Wait, this is shorter. I need to expand to reach 1,000. Let me add more depth. Expanding on the historical context, the 25th Amendment emerged post-Kennedy assassination, addressing succession gaps. Its rare use never for Section 4 removal makes current discussions groundbreaking. If invoked, it would set precedents for future crises, potentially normalizing cabinet interventions. Critics of Trump point to patterns: erratic statements, policy reversals, and inflammatory rhetoric as unfitness signs. Pritzker's dementia claim, though unsubstantiated medically, taps into public perceptions from aging concerns. Supporters counter that such calls are partisan smears, lacking evidence and ignoring electoral mandates. This divide mirrors broader polarization, where fitness becomes subjective. The military training grounds comment, if accurate, raises constitutional alarms under posse comitatus, limiting domestic military roles. Pritzker's response positions governors as counterweights, especially in affected states. Kiar's packet, by including editorials, leverages media to build consensus. Outlets like major dailies argue for invocation, citing risks to democracy. Cabinet dynamics, fear of reprisal, further entrench loyalty. Ultimately, the 25th invocation remains a long shot, but its discussion perpetuates the legitimacy crisis, ensuring Trump's every move is questioned. The third path to ending Trump's term, resignation pressure, differs from impeachment and the 25th Amendment by being primarily political rather than constitutional. It relies on building overwhelming public media and elite consensus to persuade the president to step down voluntarily. This approach lacks formal mechanisms but harnesses opinion to create untenable conditions. Central to this are organized campaigns like Impeach Trump Again and Impeach Donald Trump Now, which blend impeachment advocacy with resignation calls. The former reports nearly 1 million signatures, a staggering number indicating broad public demand. Petitioners cite ongoing offenses, federal D.C. police takeover, Los Angeles National Guard deployments, and alleged calls for executing Democratic lawmakers. These allegations portray a pattern of escalating authoritarianism, justifying immediate action. The execution rhetoric, if verified, represents an extreme threat to political norms, fueling urgency. Campaigns frame resignation as the quickest resolution, avoiding protracted trials. Representative Kiar's packet amplifies this, compiling editorials demanding removal and urging 25th invocation if impeachment stalls. This positions resignation as a fallback, emphasizing that some mechanism must prevail. Media plays a crucial role, with editorials insisting on immediate steps. This insistent tone adds moral imperative, portraying continuance as endangerment. Public pressure extends to protests and online activism, where signatures translate to visible support. The scale, hundreds of thousands, demonstrates grassroots power, pressuring lawmakers indirectly. Politically, resignation is unlikely given Trump's combative history. He fights rather than yields. Yet, sustained pressure could erode support, making governance impossible. This path intersects with others. Failed impeachment might intensify campaigns, creating a feedback loop. The legitimacy crisis, accusations amid service bolsters arguments for voluntary exit. Governor Pritzker's calls, while 25th focused, contribute to overall pressure, personalizing unfitness claims. In calculus, Democrats weigh backlash, Republicans base loyalty. A high 2026 elections loom, potentially altering dynamics. Resignation's success depends on tipping points, scandals, or defections. Currently, it's a simmering force, keeping crisis rolling. Word count 412, expand. To elaborate, campaigns use digital tools for rapid mobilization, turning petitions into viral movements. The 1 million milestone rivals past efforts like Watergate-era demands. Alleged offenses, D.C. police federalization, raise federalism concerns, alienating states' rights advocates. National Guard in L.A. evokes militarization fears, resonating with civil liberties groups. Execution calls, if substantiated, cross ethical lines mobilizing moderates. Campaigns leverage this for broad appeal. Kiar's packet, as congressional document, legitimizes public efforts, bridging grassroots and institutional. Media editorials provide intellectual backing, arguing resignation preserves dignity amid chaos. Pressure's multidirectional nature. Congress, governors, public create siege mentality. Trump's defiance strengthens resolve among opponents, but risks alienating allies if scandals mount. Historically, resignation succeeded with Nixon. Parallels drawn here emphasize potential. Ultimately, this path's flexibility makes it persistent, ensuring crisis endures without resolution. Synthesizing the pressures, a standoff emerges between demands for Trump's early-term end and political realities stalling action. The three paths, impeachment, 25th Amendment, resignation, represent the full constitutional arsenal deployed simultaneously, creating a legitimacy crisis. Trump serves amid resolutions accusing tyranny and war usurpation, with governors labeling him unfit. This constant questioning undermines authority, framing governance as provisional. Political calculus drives inertia. Democrats fear 2026 backlash from partisan impeachment. Republicans protect base. Johnson warns of Democratic House leading to third impeachment, highlighting electoral stakes. Both parties game scenarios. Try removal or wait. Pressure explodes from resolutions, campaigns, 1 million signatures, editorials, Pritzker's calls. The rolling crisis persists without votes due to GOP House control. Yet 2026 could shift, mustering will. Historical significance. Tyranny accusations while in office, massive petitions, governor's 25th demands, studied for generations. Whether pressure forces votes depends on politics. Legitimacy erosion is immediate. Bottom line, demands for end via all mechanisms create unresolved tension, potentially resolved by elections. Subscribe for updates on this evolving story. Word count 312. Expand. Delving into implications, the crisis tests constitutional resilience. Simultaneous paths highlight safeguards, but partisanship exposes flaws. Legitimacy erosion affects policy. Decisions questioned, alliances strained. 2026 midterms pivotal. Democratic gains enable impeachment. Republican hold sustains status quo. Campaign scale shows public engagement potentially influencing turnout. Pritzker's role exemplifies state-federal tension with governors as removal advocates. Media's demands amplify, shaping narrative. Trump's responses, defiance, rally base, but alienate moderates. If unresolved, crisis normalizes dysfunction, weakening institutions. Yet pressure could culminate in action if scandals escalate. The now urgency in demands contrasts with deliberate pace, heightening drama. Fundamentally, this moment questions presidential accountability in divided times.